Hello, and everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. With me, my current co-host of the show, it's Dave Morassutti. And on today's episode of Locked On Leafs, we'll chat a little bit about the loss to St. Louis and then preview tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti here, your hosts of Locked On Leafs, daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. Be sure to check it out for free wherever you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Just search up Locked On Leafs. Maple Leafs losing in not so great fashion to the St. Louis Blues last night, Dave. They got another game tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. It's been a while since they played Montreal, and it'll be the first time that we'll get to see them under the new tutelage of Martin St. Louis. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's kind of break down the loss to St. Louis on Saturday. 6-3 was the score against the St. Louis Blues. Dave, your initial thoughts on the game?
I mean, a brutal start for the Leafs, going down 2-0 against a team that's, very defensively reliable, like strong in St. Louis is not great. But I mean, I'll give the Leafs credit for battling back and for, not giving up when you're down 2-0. William Nylander, he had himself a game. Like, this is something that we were kind of waiting for. He single-handedly got, not single-handed, but he got the Leafs back into it. And then it just seemed like something was off about them all night, and St. Louis had a couple of things go their way. I mean, I was still very salty about that goal that was clearly
too many men.
Considering how many times the Leafs get called for too many men,
They called in that game. They called in that game for a too many men call.
It is ironic that it went against them.
I know. The biggest issue for me was like the Leafs. The Blues are a good team, man. Like, they are a real solid team, and Campbell ends up giving up 5 coming off of one of his better performances in the last couple of months, and he got rewarded with a third straight start. Right. And this was something that we had discussed is how is the goaltending situation going to kind of unfold? And they kept giving him, rolling with the hot hand, I guess, is what they decided, which was a conversation we had a week ago. What do you do? Looks like they made their choice. And they tried rolling with Jack. And then finally in his third start in 5 days, perhaps, I guess, Monday, 6 days, third start in 6 days. And not the best performance. Allowed 5 goals on 33 shots, but a lot of them, coming off of rebounds where they just didn't defend very well. They didn't clear the rebounds away from the danger areas, and they didn't man up on their guys, box out the guys, and they really kind of just get some easy tap-ins. And you think about, I think it was the 4-3 goal against the Sod goal. You guys just sitting at the side of the net, quick little tic-tac-toe play, Parayko down to Perron, and then through the paint. And Saw just like, thank you very much. Quick goal there, and that turned out to be the game winner. And there's just a couple of instances like that where, and you can put a little bit of blame on Campbell for some poor rebound placement. You know what I mean? Like, think about the one Buchnevich. Kyrou, the first goal of the hockey game, like a few minutes in. Kyrou coming in off the rush, takes a shot. Jack Campbell makes a save on it, but then a juicy rebound right to the stick of Buchnevich, who's not going to miss that goal. And that was kind of the first goal of the game. There was a couple instances where that was the case. So not a very good defensive effort in front of Jack, but I think Jack Campbell too, a couple of mistakes, especially, his rebound control and where he was placing them, probably not something that he's going to like when he takes a look at the film today.
Yeah, I didn't think it was his best start. And Sheldon Keefe wasn't willing to put the loss on him. He said that the defending in front of him wasn't good enough, and I do agree on that one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just guys missed assignments in front of the net, getting beat to the net easily. That continues to be something that the Leafs need to work on because, if you're getting beat to the net that easily, it is going to be a hard time for you in the playoffs.
Yeah. They allowed 10 odd man rushes in the game compared to Toronto's 7. So, you're allowing those odd man rushes, and like TJ Brody's going to do TJ Brody things. He had that one cool slide play, but it eventually resulted in a goal a couple of seconds later. But defensively, they didn't do a great job. You look at the slot shot comparison, St. Louis was 16, Toronto just 14. So they didn't win the middle of the ice battle, and often that's going to be the difference there. But to me, Toronto, like, they didn't play, terrible. It's just, I don't even know what, like, this is almost a game where you just kind of junk it, where there was just a couple of key errors that were a little persistent, and St. Louis is a good enough team to really capitalize and make you pay when you make those timely errors. And that seemed to be the situation last night.
I also just think their goaltender was like sharp, like when he had to be. Like, I'm sure a couple goals he probably would want back, but there were times where the Leafs had some like grade A chances, and he came up big as well. He made the extra save, I think, that Campbell probably would have liked to have had.
Yeah,
as well.
Why don't we take a quick break, and when we get back, let's get into our 3 stars of the game. Do you have 3 stars? I don't have 3 full stars. We'll get into it. We'll discuss it. We'll talk about it. And we'll also preview tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens and ponder who gets the net, Jack or Peter. That's what's coming up here later on Locked On Leafs. But before we get there, why don't we hear a quick word from today's show sponsor, Dave? Tell us all about our friends over at Built Bar.
Yeah, Built Bar. I mean, we can't get enough of these guys. Great protein bars if you're looking for something that doesn't have a lot of calories and provides, doesn't have a lot of calories, low sugar, lots of protein, and loads of flavors that, if you're picky on your flavors, they got all the choices that you are looking for. So at Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it delicious and figure out how to make it healthy as well. And I don't know about you, I can't put them down when I try them. I actually got to try some. I finally found some. It took a little time to get them, but they are delicious. So make sure you go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. So that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com.
And welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti, your host of the show. And one more reminder for you, you can find the show on all podcasts and platforms, also now up on YouTube. You can subscribe, Locked On Leafs. So Toronto, a 6-3 loss to the St. Louis Blues. Why don't we go through our 3 stars of the game? Dave, why don't you start off? Who was your 3rd star for Toronto?
Yeah, I had a really tough time picking 3. So 3rd star, I'm going to go Michael Bunting. He might not have had the best night stats-wise, but boy, he was not he was not letting things go.
Yeah.
St. Louis is that scrappy team that, will try to get on your skin, and they like to play it rough, and this is the type of game we need to see Michael Bunting kind of thrive and just be a presence in.
Yeah, and by the way, if you missed it, I had an interview with Michael Bunting on Leafs Lunch on Friday. You can go check that out. You can find it either Leafs Lunch through podcast, or you can find it online on tsn.ca. But he talked about on that episode just being, when he's getting in the mix of things and being that agitator, being that Darcy Tucker type of role, that's when he feels like he's at his best. And that's what he was like again in this game. Ended up playing 19 minutes. He had 3 shots on goal, a couple of really good chances too. Like, he had an opportunity to score a goal or 2 in that game. Ended up at 5-on-5, the highest individual expected goals average for the Maple Leafs. But then 4 hits, and then you got that. Was it even a fight? Was it technically a fight? Little scrap with him and Torrey Krug just getting under the skin of the St. Louis Blues. We can call it that, sure, why not? But that I agree with you. I had Michael Bunting as my 3rd star as well. Who's your 2nd star here, Dave?
It's almost like you're kind of grasping at straws a bit, but you know what? I'm going to give it to TJ Brody.
But we got the same 3 stars. I already know this now.
TJ Brody. Okay, how about this? If you have Brody, I'll go with my second choice, Alexander Kerfoot.
No, okay, you can, but we can both have Brody because I think that he deserves. We rarely put TJ Brody in these 3 stars because he's often plays such a quiet game that he doesn't come to the forefront. He's often the forgotten man and very undervalued. So I think it's just a testament to how good of a game he actually had. The fact that we both thought of him as one of our 3 stars.
I also had Alexander Kerfoot there just because without his play on Nylander's second goal, like that goal,
the rush. Oh yeah.
I think he's this is a guy I feel like needs to help that second line a bit more. I think they need him to kind of drive things because really, if you look at how Michael Bunting does it for the first line, I think Alexander Kerfoot needs to do it more for that second line. I think you saw that he is capable of it. Brody is very deserving of the 2nd star. I think Kerfoot deserves a shout out as well.
Yeah, all right, I'll totally agree with you. But for me, I'm gonna give it to TJ Brody. Did have that blunder, gave away the puck on was it the 3-3 goal or no which was it the 5-3 goal? Bit of a blunder there, just kind of gave out the puck, and Mikkola ended up getting a goal, which might have been tipped in, but. Outside of that, I thought that he had a decent game. Did have the slide like earlier on that play to break up a odd man rush opportunity. So, you take the good with the bad, but got a goal. And TJ Brody rarely finds himself on the goal sheet, but it was a really nice, actually, screen by Ilya Mikheyev to allow him to get that goal. And TJ Brody spoke post game and even said that. He's like, yeah, if Mick doesn't provide that screen for me and Huso can see that point blank, that's a muffin that gets stopped 99 times out of 100. So the screen was a big part of it. But Broad's, a decent game. Ended up getting on the score sheet, so decided to give him a 2nd star. And then William Nylander, I think, is who we're both going to sit here as the number 1 star of the game. Broke an 8-game goalless drought, scored twice in the game. And this is something that we saw coming. The last couple of outings, he seemed to have been gaining a little bit confidence. He was shooting with a little bit more authority, and then you saw it all finally come. We talk about the process and the results, and eventually the process will lead to results. That's what finally happened here against the game against St. Louis. Unfortunately, it comes in a losing effort, so it's not talked about nearly as much, but Nylander, when this guy's on, when this guy has confidence and he's screaming down the wing and he's placing his shots the way that he does, he truly is an elite scoring threat. And that's what he was in the game against the Blues. And clearly, I think the Maple Leafs, best forward, I would say, of the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that, I think got into the good graces of Leafs fans for his play in the playoffs last year. He was off to a decent start, and then we started.
Really good start.
Yeah, we thought he was going to set career highs. I mean, he's still very capable of doing it. A guy like him can get very streaky, and I think we're starting to see that coming. Because you mentioned, I think in Seattle, he had. I mean, he actually throughout that whole road trip in the West, he had so many, grade A scoring chances. I think even on Demko, he had a couple that were stopped on breakaways. So I feel like it was only a matter of time before he had to break up. I mentioned in an article that I wrote actually for the Fanside Network that he's a guy that, he's put a lot more effort into his defensive game.
Yeah.
And it's translated to being better offensively, but it feels like he had gone away from that a little bit because the offense wasn't there. And I think the confidence was kind of lacking there. I think you're starting to see it come back a bit. It's slowly coming back, but I think this is, obviously a great start. And the Leafs, I think, have some easier opponents that will allow him to kind of keep that role going.
I would hope so, because before about a week ago, the second line had not been producing anything. There was a month stretch there. It was before the Seattle game, a month stretch where those two combined for 2 points at 5-on-5 over that calendar month before the Seattle game. So, we saw stretches and we saw instances of this team, of this line of Kerfoot, Tavares, and Nylander start to kind of roll. Kerfoot scored the goal in Seattle, and then also Muzzin ended up scoring late in that game, but it was really the play of Tavares and Nylander to allow that to get set up. And then they played well in the game against Pittsburgh, but they didn't score. And then finally they burst through and get a couple of goals here off the rush for William Nylander. So he's going to go down as our first star of the game. As for tonight's game, the Montreal Canadiens. So Toronto heading out onto the road to the Bell Center. I think I want to say restrictions are getting lifted and they might have some people in the building tonight. I want to say I thought I heard that was happening February 21st. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case. But we're going to preview tonight's game when we return. Before we do, though, let me tell you about one of today's show sponsors, and that's BetOnline.net. Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where to find the next coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends and action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and David Morassutti taking you through the show. So we're going to kind of close the book on the weekend loss to the St. Louis Blues and get set and get ready for tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal, not a very good team, Dave. I don't know if you know this, but they have a grand total of 9 victories all season. 9 victories all season. The Flames are on a 9-game winning streak, like in the last month. Like, just to put that into perspective, not a very good team. But they've been playing a little bit better. They've played a little bit better as of late. Now, granted, we're recording this Sunday afternoon. They're actually playing a game right now as we speak, so they could have 10 by the time you're listening to this. Not exactly, we'll see what happens. But they play better under Marty St. Louis. Like they have.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to beat Colorado's loss total. That's the goal right now.
Oh, is that what it is? To win more games than Colorado loses?
Colorado has lost 9 games of regulation. So that's the measuring stick right now. Can the Habs have more regulation wins?
Not even regulation, just wins.
Yeah. Okay, wins versus what Colorado has lost in regulation.
Yeah. Oh boy, that is
right there, bro.
What an intriguing stat. What an intriguing stat. I'll say this though, I've been able to watch a couple of their games since Marty St. Louis took over. Cole Caulfield's playing really, really well. I think we chatted about that the other day on the show, but they're playing better. They're playing with a little bit more confidence, I guess you could say, and they're respectful losses. They're not getting blown out 7-2 each night like they were before the coaching change. Like, before they fired him, they were giving up an average of 6.5 goals. 6.5 goals in the 5 games leading up to Dom Ducharme's exit from Montreal. Like, that's just ridiculous. And they've played a lot harder and better for St. Louis. They finally got his first win the other night, and I'm sure they'll look to try and do the same against Toronto. And look, Toronto, the problem is sometimes they take them too lightly, right? Like, they take the weaker opponents too lightly. So you can never feel super good going into the game tonight against Montreal. But, I think Toronto should feel like they have the upper hand and should be able to walk away with the full 2 points.
Mike, I swear to God, if the Leafs lose this game,
it's not on me. Shut up.
This is going to be the Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup win for the season. They will treat this as if they won the cup.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Like, I would not want to see Leafs Twitter if they lose. Like, I'm not putting that omen out there because I don't want to see it because everyone's going to lose their minds.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they will. The question is, the question is here, Dave, I don't know if they've announced. Maybe they did announce one.
for the Leafs
I'll quickly
goaltender?
check. But have you seen if they've announced a goaltender?
Yeah,
'Cause
I
again, we are
saw Peter Mrazek is supposed to start.
so Peter Mrazek's going to get the start. So I guess Jack gets 3 in a row, gives up a bunch of goals on Saturday, and they say, okay, let's go back to Peter. You like the move? I guess I like it.
I kind of brought that up as a possibility that, hey, give Jack 3, see how he does. But I think Peter was supposed to get one somewhere. So the
Well,
idea,
it's night one of a back to back, right? So you knew it was going to be, Campbell's going to play either Monday or Tuesday, but why not maybe give, maybe I would have given him a chance to rebound off of Saturday's game and then get Mrazek on the Tuesday, and then you can play Campbell again on the Thursday. But I don't know what's going on here with this goaltending tandem. But
that's going to be the biggest mystery for the rest of the season. Like, it's going to be unpredictable. It's not like before where you can obviously look at the second half of a back to back and be almost like like you're putting in pen Peter Mrazek. Now it's like,
right, the backup.
let's put it in pencil.
Right, exactly. Like before, it was the backup, the 1B will get that game. Freddie got night one every single night. And now it's we'll see how we feel, I guess, which might even be a testament to how they feel about the goaltending situation. But anyways, I still feel confident. Like Mrazek's played pretty well. Didn't have his best outing against Vancouver last time he was out last weekend, but it was really just a couple of quick ones early, and then he somewhat locked it down. Trying to give Vancouver much. They should have blown them out to realistically, wasn't for Thatcher Demko. But Mrazek should be able to get this win. What are you looking forward to see tonight? What do you think are kind of going to be the keys to victory for the Maple Leafs?
I think the important one is I want to see William Nylander build off his performance against St. Louis. I think, so much attention gets paid on Matthews, Marner, and Bunting. There should be prime opportunities for guys underneath to really step up. And we know Montreal is dealing with, no Shea Weber, so they don't really have that top pairing defenseman. I mean, Jeff Petrie is probably the closest thing you're going to get. I would assume that Jeff Petrie will see a lot of Austin Matthews. So I want to see that William Nylander, I'm going to call it that second line. They need to really pick things up and start to go on a bit of a roll here as a trio, because I think that trio isn't defined yet. I think they're trying to get it to be that's concrete second line. It just hasn't really happened yet. I think that a game like Saturday against St. Louis goes the right way. I just don't want to see them take a step back.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they go out, they have a solid performance and build off of that and gain some momentum as they head into the back half of the season here, the back nine. Definitely, I think a strong showing against Montreal could go a long way there. And for me, get off to a good start. You get off to a good start, you score a couple of goals in the first period, and then you just kind of keep it going, play a full 60, keep pedal to the metal, keep the foot on the throat to the Montreal Canadiens, and you don't allow them to get back into it. But just go out there and prove like we are Stanley Cup contenders, and you are contending for the number one pick in the draft, and make that known. The difference between the two.
Do not let Montreal score first. That's I think the biggest key is if you let Montreal score first, that gives them as much confidence as they had going into the game. I don't think they would expect to score first.
No, I don't think so either. So make sure that you get off to a good start, and I think that'll go a long way here. You got one final key?
Final key is probably I think the defense needs to be a little bit better in front of the net. I think Cole Caulfield is the Habs' new weapon under Marty St. Louis, and we saw what Caulfield has done against the Leafs before. So I think if you're the Leafs, you don't want this guy to continue getting confidence. I think him, Josh Anderson, are like if I'm like the defense, those are guys I'm looking to stop. Josh Anderson scored against the Islanders here on Sunday. He's a guy that's been very vocal about needing the Habs to play better, and he likes to play against Toronto, him and Caulfield. So make sure that the usual suspects for the Habs that are kind of turning things around don't allow that to happen. Basically, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it should be a fun one though. I'm hoping for the best for Toronto, and just remember that you're the stronger squad. That's what the Leafs need to remember. They are the stronger squad. They're expected to win the game. Should be a dub, but you got to go out there and you got to play the game,
Doesn't it
right?
feel
Don't
like
play down to your opponent. Don't play down to your opponent. Make them try and compete with you.
here's the thing, Mike? Doesn't it feel like we're almost sort of the fragile state in that this isn't considered a slam dunk for like even though it should be?
It doesn't matter. I mean, this team could go on like a 24-game winning streak and they go up against Montreal, and I'm still going to be a little bit worried. Like, this team could be looking like the Tampa Bay Lightning through the playoffs last year, and you go up against Montreal, and I could still be worried. Like, it's just Montreal, for whatever reason, Toronto plays down to their opponent all the time, and St. Louis got that team playing a little bit better as of late. So, I think that they could take advantage of some mistakes that Toronto makes if they, come in here and they're not thinking that they could take it easy on them. But it's night one of a back-to-back, so that also is something to keep in mind. But hopefully, they can pull out and get the full 2 points. That's what Toronto needs to do, is get the full 2 points in Montreal. Hopefully, you can get in Columbus and keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. The goal of the season, win the division. That's the goal. And you got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, or else you're not going to do that. And they are going to end up playing one of these Florida teams in the first round of the playoffs, which you don't want to do. You don't want to do. But yeah, as we mentioned before, Lyubushkin, the new defenseman for the Maple Leafs, will not make his debut in tonight's game. He will make his debut tomorrow, or at least he'll be joining the team tomorrow in Columbus. So that could be our first opportunity to get a look at the new Maple Leaf. So if you're hoping that you could see him tonight, not going to be the case. But that's to do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms. You receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow the show at Locked On Leafs. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow alongside my good pal Dave. We'll be breaking down the Habs game, which hopefully ends up with 2 points. And then we'll also be teeing up the game against the Blue Jackets. But until then, give it a lot right here on Locked On Leafs.